Hi, I'm Anson Ho. Welcome to SFGovTV In Person, where we have a roundtable discussion with people around our community about important topics. Today, we're going to be talking about maturing and aging, basically retirement life. Really excited to speak with you all today. Something that I'm trying to plan for and thinking about every year as I'm working every day and hoping not to work anymore. So why don't we just get into it? We can just go around, introduce yourselves, and let us know if you are retired right now or planning to retire soon, and also like what kind of career you're in. We can start with Crystal.
Hi, my name is Crystal Jang. I'm a fourth generation Californian, third generation San Franciscan. I identify as she, her, they, and ta as pronouns. Born and raised in San Francisco. I taught school, was part of the educational system, San Francisco Unified School District. I was educated by San Francisco Unified School District, then went back and taught for 37 years in middle school and high school.
Nice.
I married to my wife, Sydney, who we've been married at least 30 years, and we were married several times because many times it didn't take because of the GLBTQ issues. And then we have a daughter, Cameron, who is named after Cameron House, Donaldina Cameron.
Awesome.
I live currently in Sunnyside, beautiful Sunnyside, the foggiest part of the city. And been retired since 2000, officially retired from the school district since 2005. And since then have done a lot of community work, working with the LGBTQ API communities, and focusing now as I get older in intergenerational work, building bridges and trying to create a stronger community across the board.
Nice. Were you always like interested in working with youth or education growing up, like when you're younger?
I always knew that in the 7th grade I had this incredible teacher at Francisco Junior High School, Mrs. Burke. And from then on, I knew I was going to be a teacher from the 7th grade. I didn't decide anything else. So I became a teacher, and I stayed because I loved the vacations. I loved the time off.
Nice. Awesome. David, how about yourself?
Yes, I'm Reverend David Brown. Today is my 1-year anniversary of being retired.
Nice.
So just last September was when I retired after serving 3 Presbyterian churches here in San Francisco, Covenant Presbyterian, Calvary Presbyterian, and then the last one was Noe Valley Ministry Presbyterian Church. And I originally from Colorado and raised our kids in Denver and all that, but came to San Francisco in 2000, went to seminary to become a Presbyterian minister, and that's what I've done for the last 23 years. So
Nice. And before you came to California,
Before I was a Baptist minister and also a child protection social worker in my previous life. So
Awesome. Thank you. Jimmy, how about yourself?
I'm Jimmy. I'm retired from the Department of Public Health here in San Francisco. I served as the Deputy Director of Health with responsibility for HIV, mental health, substance abuse, were all in my work as Deputy Director. I retired in 2008. Then on a Friday and on a Monday, I started in a nonprofit as the interim executive director and stayed there for 4 years. And then then officially retired in 2011. I currently serve on 5 community boards.
Wow.
I have a need to be active.
Yeah.
I look at some of my friends who retired and they don't seem very healthy to me in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And so I knew that I wanted to be healthy. I'm a first generation Californian. I've lived in San Francisco for 50 years, a little over 50 years. My whole career, professional career, was here, except for a brief moment of insanity when I went to LA for 5 years. I came back. So,
Awesome. Thank you. Linda, how about yourself?
Sure. Good morning. Linda Parker Pennington, or LPP, you know me, is the handle. I have been in California since 1981, having come out for graduate school, been in San Francisco for 25 years since I got married. I don't consider myself retired. I have my own business. I created my own business in about 2006, and I do leadership development, organizational consulting, and I'm described as a triple threat because I worked for Apple Computer in the 80s and Accenture in the 90s, and then Google in the aughts when I was in my 40s, which made me what they called a Greygler. Only 2% of people at Google were over 40. 2% were African American, and some small percentage were. Anyway, so I was kind of a unicorn. And now that I'm still doing my own business, but at my own pace, doing the things that I enjoy, I also serve on a few boards that I will claim, and have served on a number of boards over the years because I enjoy working with nonprofit organizations like Goodwill. I spent a fair amount of time at Goodwill and the Tide Center, and I try to have an impact in my life and try to be on point with my purpose and serving my people and helping people do what they can do. And I'm a little strange because my son is 21. So I learn a lot from him. And so I am on every social media platform known to man. And I actually do use them now, God help me, people send me TikTok and I go, okay, I'll look at the TikTok. But it was somewhat reluctantly, but, when you have a son that age or child that age, and people who have grandchildren probably feel this way too, it keeps you current. So anyway, that's me.
Nice, thank you. So let's just start with sort of the easy questions. I think, for me, I think whenever I take a vacation and I come back and I go back to work, I'm like, man, how am I gonna get ready to retire and do what I wanna do, So I was just wondering, for you all, at what age or what moment did you start thinking about whether it's finance or health or things to do when you retire? At what time or age or moment, aha moment did you have when you start thinking about retirement? Anyone?
I think for me, it was a natural because being in education, every summer was a retirement. And every September was a renewal. So I had the great privilege and pleasure of retiring every year and not teaching summer school, but enjoying life and balancing the work life, profession. And my daughter is now also in education. She's a physical therapist in the schools, and she's mom, they call it the golden handcuffs, because you have this job where you work for a certain amount of time, you intensely working, physically and emotionally, spiritually and everything, and then you can relax for a couple months like a retirement, and you come back to it. So that gave me a lot of practice of taking time off, doing what I needed to do, recharging, and coming back again.
Nice.
So I have a different view myself, which I kind of signaled earlier about retirement. I don't think I ever thought I would retire anyway. I just, someone told me a long time ago when I was quite young that life unfolds in 3 stages: to learn, to earn, and to serve. And so as I, coming through school, but also being a lifelong learner, I then, transition into, okay, let me earn some bucks and, make some money and help my family be comfortable. But I moved into service early in my career. So service has become, the work I do. So, and it's, whether I get paid or not is the only issue around that. It's really more a reflection of the change in my value system and how I want to show up in the world in service. And, if somebody wants to pay me to do something, I'm happy about that too.
And that value system, though, did it come at an early age or later on, middle, when you were working in some sort of field?
Yeah, it came pretty early. My family is very multi-generational, and I had a great aunt, Marvel Cook, who was actually she was the first Black woman journalist in the U.S., and she worked for W.B. Du Bois when she graduated from University of Minnesota. So I used to, sit with her and spend the weekend with her and just be with her, when she was in her 90s, and she passed when she was 98. And I always thought about legacy. So because she taught me about, her life and what it meant, the impact of that, and that was kind of her legacy to leave. So I always thought about what's the legacy that I will leave. So it kind of put me on the path of that pretty early.
Wow, nice.
For me, I had my favorite grandmother, and I was her favorite grandchild. I lorded it over my cousins and my brother and sister. She used to say to me, if you ain't willing to work from can't see in the morning to can't see at night, you ain't willing to work. So I always had this notion that I would work. I never thought about retirement until 2008. Seriously, in 2008, I was deputy director of health, and the city was in financial trouble. And the board of supervisors came up with this idea that if you were one of those high-paid execs, that they would give you 3 and 3, 3 years of age and 3 years of service. And I said, well, this is a good time to leave. And I decided to retire in 2008 as a result of that offer, because it made me have more revenue from my retirement because it made me older, 3 years older. They gave me more service. And so I retired based on that fact. And I also knew that I wasn't going any higher than the Department of Public Health or in city government. The next place for me was the health director, and I knew that wasn't going to happen. So I decided, well, it's time to go. And I left.
As I moved into my 70s a couple of years ago, my wife of 50 years would say, have you thought about retiring yet? And I was saying, no, I don't think I'm ready to retire. I still feel like I have something to say still. I'm writing a sermon every week, for instance. But there's also the I don't know if I can afford to retire idea. So I just keep on working until I can't anymore. And then one day I did have an aha moment. And it was like, maybe I have said all I need to say. And maybe I should consider, setting that aside and not making that my main thing. But also, we realized that in the time left in my life, there were things that we wanted to do, like travel, seeing friends in the different places around the world that we had done a little bit before, but wanted to do much more. And to just shift gears and do those kinds of things. And so about 2 years ago, I started thinking more and more about what retirement would look like. Looking at the financial things, the pension benefits from the Presbyterian Church and Social Security, everything like that, and just started really zeroing in on figuring that out.
Yeah.
And came to the place where I said, yeah, I think we can do this. And however, like 2 weeks after I retired, I realized that I missed writing, so I went back to writing stuff, not sermons, but also realized that I enjoyed doing what I was doing. So right now I'm doing a temporary interim pastor thing for a few months, even though I just retired a year ago. So it's kind of like I can't help myself, but right. The flexibility of it. So we're going to Colorado in a couple of weeks, and we're going to go to New Zealand in the fall. I mean, in the winter. So that freedom makes a big difference.
Nice. But I want to ask though, obviously we're sort of after post-COVID, but sort of still happening. But when that happened, obviously it forced everyone to slow down, but did that give you more of an itch to do more? Or did that actually say, ooh, because maybe my health is not as great, I need to be careful, slow down, and not do as much? So did COVID kind of slow you guys down more, or actually push you to do more? Because I know for my mom, she was kind of more fearless, because she was like, no, I don't want to be cooped up. This is I need to do more now. It made this light bulb moment for her where she was like, okay, my life is a little shorter now and I should do more. How about for you all?
Well, COVID would have made me crazy because I'm someone who likes to travel. If I don't get out of the country, every year, I literally go nuts. And so the inability to travel was a thing for me. But I did reconnect with nature. So then I started just taking long walks in Heron's Head Park, which is near where I live in the Bayview, and reconnecting with nature. And then I took up meditation, which I had toyed with, and I was horrible at it, but I stuck with it through that. So those are the two things that really saved me, because the confinement would have, been too much for me.
Nice. I'm glad that, it's something that's very positive that came out of it, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, COVID for me was really looking at what was important in our lives. And my mother was 104 when she just passed, and she was a lifelong San Franciscan and one of the pioneer in her own way. And we actually still had to maintain her lifestyle. She was independent until she was 100 in North Beach, Chinatown, walking around and doing her own grocery shopping and everything like that. But so we still had to visit her, help her out with groceries and things like that. But that sort of made us a little less fearful, because we had to go out. There was no choice. But then we started delivering, my partner and I started cooking and delivering food to a lot of the other folks, seniors. We were seniors ourselves, but a lot of people were more senior than we were, so we felt like they needed the help. And actually, we felt like we needed to do it. It was like a need to do it. And that the fact that we were very careful, and thank goodness I never got COVID. Neither one of us did, but we were able to take care of other folks too, and that made it really worthwhile for us. So we didn't stop, but my mom also showed us that, she was fierce in her own way of living, and she lived life, and she just kept going, and so it was a great example for us.
Nice. That's awesome.
For me, I run. So I had an opportunity to run in my neighborhood. I live in the Outer Mission in St. Mary's Park. I have lived there for over 30 years. So I run in that area, but I also get in my car and drive down the marina and run along the Marina Green. And one of the things that was fascinating to me is that it got me out of the house, one, and I got to see people. Even though I didn't know them necessarily, I got to see people, and I felt that connection with folks out there. My meditation is to run. And so I try to run 3 times a week, try to run somewhere between 5 and 7 miles. And so that for me is the way that I dealt with COVID. But having been a health professional and worked in HIV and AIDS, I saw a lot of loss and death, and families destroyed in some cases, or disrupted in other cases. So in some ways that prepared me for COVID. Because I was able to recognize, what do I need to be helpful to other folks? How do I take care of me so that when I come to help the other folks, I'm doing something that makes sense to them, and it doesn't become about me, it becomes about them.
I like what you say, but I'm sorry.
No, you go.
I like what you say about getting out and running, although I hate running. But that's one of the things I realize now in retirement is I really got sedentary during COVID, and I'm sitting around a lot. And even today, I'm finding it hard to motivate myself to get out and do stuff. And then, my wife will say, "Let's go take a walk." Okay, and but then when I do it, I'm really glad we did it. But I'm having to unlearn that, if you will, that sedentary kind of lifestyle that I sort of got into, because the health thing obviously is very important, and we have to pay attention to it. There's no doubt about it.
Well, that actually ties into what I was going to say, because one of my other coping mechanisms was music. And so I started building playlists. It actually started at church, because I went to church, and the woman who was singing that day, she was singing a song called "We Can Be Kind." And I was like, I never heard that song. And I said, who is it? And they said, Nancy Lamont. Okay, so I started a playlist called "We Can Be Kind." And then I just started building this playlist. And so the music it's not just the music, because I sing with it, but I dance also. So I have about 24 playlists now. on different categories. One's for dance, one's for romance, one's resistance, one's sexy. Whatever. Don't know why that's there, but anyway, I find that I love to sing and dance to the music, and then it reminds me of what I was doing when I was a teenager, and that song played, Motown or the R&B or the whatever. So it reconnects me to my heart and my memories and the words in the music, which I think is also good for the brain, because I understand even people with dementia, you can play a song and they will remember the words, right? Those are still in the muscle memory, I guess, in the brain. So I think that the music and rediscovering music and reclaiming it in my life was huge, and it got me off the couch, because I do this in the morning. I didn't care if people were looking through the window. What is that woman?
There's a great market for that. I hope you're marketing that. I'm in.
You're in. I'll start the series.
Well, one of the things that we did, I'm part of a senior taiko group, taiko drumming. From the Y, and we started Zoom during COVID, but you can't drum during COVID, Zoom, because you're all off. We tried it the first time, and nobody could hear you doing different things. So we started meeting in the park, and we were like 10 feet away from each other, but we would have 20 people drumming. And that music and connection with people, even though we were far away, and we could keep our distance, really kept us going. So over the year, we began drumming in the park. And that was really, really a wonderful thing. It kept me going and kept us sane, actually.
Yeah, that's great. That's so interesting that, like, I guess, you're hearing your stories that made you help more people during a time when, of downtime versus, like, I guess the notion is that we need to help, the older people during COVID time, but you all actually stepped out and helped other people, and you're like, no, not me. It's not about me. It's about everyone else. So it's very, very interesting to hear that.
I think one of the most important things, health-wise, is to be with people.
With community.
Loneliness is going to continue to be a really, really bad thing for our society. In America, more and more people are living by themselves without any connection with other people, and we just need to find ways to get out of that kind of thinking and be with people, despite our concerns about infectious diseases and that kind of thing. The downside is just, I think, too bad.
One of the boards that I sit on is the Meta Fund, and the Meta Fund's grants about $2.5 million a year to nonprofits in San Francisco. And one of our populations that we're very interested in serving is aging and older adults. And so we fund programs that target that population. And one of the issues, what you just brought up, is loneliness and isolation. And how do we help those folks address those issues with money? We're not doing the work. We're providing nonprofits with the resources. And some of the nonprofits that we fund are doing intergenerational work because it's critical and essential for seniors to have an intergenerational relationship to the community. And for the young folks to get the wisdom that's available from us.
Right.
Wow. And we have to say we have to sort of push back against the devices.
Yes.
That cater to a sedentary kind of existence, and I don't, I'm not sure what the solutions are to that. I mean, I get sucked into it really easily, and it's so. How we can do authentic community in spite of our devices, or help to incorporate them into our lives in a more healthy way, I don't know, but it seems like it's a crucial thing.
I want to build on what you said about community, because the need to be together is critical, and I was very conscious of kind of being with my tribe, whether it was, my church group or my community groups, that I am with, and for better or worse, helping each other through it, because we are all in this together. So in the same way that we do for our family, and I was very conscious of, keeping my eye on my family. And my sister, one of my sisters has not come through this well. She won't come out of the house. And literally, she aged 10 years in the last 2 years of the pandemic. And so I'm very conscious of everybody's mental health and their state. And also the need to I just call people randomly if I say, I haven't talked to that person in like 3 years since before. And I will pick up the phone and call them now to kind of reconnect and check in and all of that. So I just think being the conscious rebuilding and reclaiming of our community, and sometimes I refer to them as my tribe for whatever reason, is critical coming out now.
I'm kind of curious then, like, do you all have interactions with younger people kind of regularly? Like, do you share, whether it's your own personal stories or advice, or is it more also to keep you youthful as well?
No, absolutely. I mean, most of my work as it's gotten older and not working professionally has been intergenerational work, because it's so important. Because as I'm aging, also I'm physically can't do a lot of, who's going to carry the garbage out and stuff like that. I mean, we have a daughter that's 30 and she still lives with us, as many young people are still doing because of the finances and things. But all of my political work and community work is intergenerational, and we made a conscious effort to do that so that we can learn from each other. And that, especially for API queer folks, young folks, they need to see that their future can be positive. That as elders in the API community, we are people who are thriving, and we will continue to thrive, and we can support and guide and advise and also listen. And so our intergenerational work is really building community and building a strong community so that we can really cross over, help each other. As elders, we have resources that we can share. As young people, they have ideas, and they certainly can teach us about all the technology things that I don't know. I'm always asking, well, how do you do this?
Yeah.
So that's really, really crucial for our survival.
Yes. When I was at Google as a woman over 40, this was in 2007 that I started there, and I was used to being the younger person, right, in most of my career, but there I was obviously in the elders and the Greyglers, they call the group. People over 40. And so I had to learn really quickly. It was a crash course in how to stand back and be okay when a 24-year-old was telling me what to do, right? And I will say, I'm in general, please don't tell me what to do or how to do it, because I've been around long enough to know what to do. But it's not coming out of wherever they came out of school. They were used to telling people. So I said, well, you know what? I can sit back and learn something, because I'm sure I can learn something from these folks, even though I thought you hired me for my experience and my wisdom, which is, of course, what they said to me when, because I was like, are you sure? Because, I've been in Google. I didn't see anybody look like me. But there I was. So that since then, it's been wonderful to have done the work working across generations and having the 21-year-old son, which was really way across the, being a baby boomer and he's Gen Z, is crazy gap. But now I am so focused on young people. The other day I was in Sonoma and there was this young woman, this young African-American woman who was over at another table, and I hardly ever see any Black people in Sonoma anyway. So finally she was getting up to go, and I was like, but I was on the phone with an older woman I have a friendship with, and I said, I gotta go talk to that. So I literally go over to her just to get to know her, because I feel we need each other, right? But I know I need the youthful energy, and I love to meet, and she was quite attractive, so I'm always thinking about people for my son. But
Wow.
just saying.
Yeah, that's a good strategy. Yeah.
So anyway, it is really I cherish that, and also I cherish kind of busting the myths about elders, and like my son is always quite surprised when my playlist is even more current than his, and I have something on there. He goes, "What? I said, yeah. So and doing technology, and I'm always training people who are in my age group how to use, Google Docs or, whatever the thing is, so that they can get more current as well. So I like being a modern elder.
One of the things I think I like about being a senior now is that I do have some wisdom. I do have a life of experiences, and I've thought about what those experiences mean. So they're not just experiences, but it fits into an overall philosophy of what my life is, and I think about it. And then I find myself writing my memoirs, trying to write it all down, which is not easy. But given all that, I also realize that I still have a lot to learn, and to have an attitude of continually learning, and not just sort of settling back and say, well, okay, I've learned all there is I need to know, and I can get by from now on. But having the curiosity to keep on learning new things and challenging assumptions that I thought I knew that, and well, maybe I don't know that. I need to learn something new about it. So continuing to learn is, I think, a significant thing.
I was going to ask Linda, I was curious, and maybe for all of you too, like, were you always outgoing or fearful to talk to strangers before, or was it something you, like, at a certain age, or now you're like, I don't care, I don't care what anyone thinks of me anymore. I'm just going to go walk it, like.
Great about getting older.
Yeah, it's one of the benefits of getting older, because I did grow up very shy, so I would never talk to strangers or, or anything, the danger and strangers or whatever. But at some point I kind of flipped, but certainly once I got to be in my 40s, and even more so now, I just say whatever. If I want to talk to you, I go talk to you. Last night I did this woman sitting there, I said, you look interesting. I'm going to just go talk to you, and got her whole backstory. And, I don't know, I guess that's just part of the essence of life, but I think as you get older, you're entitled to that, right? And so I saw, people like Toni Morrison and Cicely Tyson, people who were, they're just who they are, right? And maybe that came with their age and being elder. So, and Maya Angelou, I should mention, but people who were storytellers, their life was out there, and you connect with them, and and that's kind of always, I've had those models in my head.
People are less threatened when we approach, I think, as elders. They just don't see us, they sort of see us as harmless or something until we open our mouth.
Yeah, that is true. If
if
someone was sitting there and it was, whether it's elder person or someone
like
else,
your grandma's coming up to talk to you,
Right.
then you're much more open to. My mother was, like I said, she passed at 104 just recently, but she was a curious person all the way through her lives, and she always said, she made us eat different things constantly. She lived in North Beach. She was the first Chinese person that went to North Beach and opened a business. She was an optometrist in her lifetime, but I learned from her curiosity. She would just go up to anybody and just start talking to them, and learn, and made friends, and learned about all these different types of people, but just because she was curious and she wasn't afraid. And that was a great role modeling for myself. And I really, I feel like as elders, we just have we're able to approach almost anybody and just say, hey, how you doing? And they're really open to talking to us.
I think for me that my jobs, my career, forced me to become a more public person. And when I was away from work, I became more quiet and less engaged with other folks. So when I was at work, it was this persona of being in the room and doing what I needed to do and saying what I needed to say. And then after doing a talk or giving a speech or whatever it was that I was doing, people would come up and start talking to me, and it forced me to begin to engage. And then that went from that work into my life in general. So I became more and more willing to go up and talk to folks that I didn't know. Because they didn't know me, they only knew what I presented when I was doing my public health work and some of my volunteer work, but they didn't know me. But I didn't know them either. They were a group of people, sometimes large, sometimes small groups of people, and I needed to engage with them. from other than the pulpit?
Which I found myself doing quite a bit from the pulpit. And so I always had things to say to people, and I learned how to be, that public person with whatever congregation I was working with. But I also sometimes would pull back in the more intimate and one-on-one kinds of things, because it takes a lot of energy to be up front, and if you're, and so, but then once I would get through the reluctance to keep on being engaged, there was always very wonderful conversations that people seem to enjoy. Sometimes even my grandchildren, but that's pretty rare now, where they enjoy my conversation.
It'll be good for them.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, so I just want to kind of do some rapid fire questions. It's more like, short answers, yes, no, or just kind of really short comments, and just try to just shoot out some questions to you guys, okay? So one question is, do you guys regret not taking more photos or videos when you're younger, now that you're older and you don't, maybe not have as many memories documented?
Yes.
Yes.
I took a lot of pictures, and now I have to go through them and sort them out.
I took a lot of, I wish I had taken more, though, of those days, and they were digitally preserved, too, because I have the photo
We had
albums.
Film cameras was
Yeah. How about, do you guys sleep less now? And if you do you use, do you try to use more time to do stuff?
sleep a lot less.
Really? I sleep more. I take a nap every afternoon. Yeah.
Way less. Yeah.
Yes.
Way less. Huh. That's great. Do you see the term senior or elder, is that a negative term to you, or is it just normal?
I'm not crazy about the terms, but I haven't found one that's really good yet.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
Well, I'm an elder. I'm a modern elder, which is a thing, and so I'm totally embraced the term elder.
Aging and older adult population is part of what I am.
And then with that, do you like to use your senior discount, or do you always ask for a senior discount?
Always.
Absolutely.
I found the list
Tuesday
and what
at Ross.
age and where and the movie theaters. You could just say you were. You didn't have to look.
We earned that.
That's right. Get my little 10%.
Do you guys expect people to kind of give you more respect because you're older? Not in a sense of how to listen to you, but say there's a seat there and they should get up, or maybe let you in, open the door for you, some stuff like that. Do you guys expect more respect?
No.
No.
This is California.
Yeah.
That's a regional thing.
When I'm on the bus and somebody does offer me their seat, I'm offended. But
I am too. When I'm on BART, I say, no, I don't need it.
I will take the seat.
But I
that's
thank them.
offered,
I always
honestly.
thank them, but, just.
I offer to younger people, but I don't want them to offer to me.
And I offer it to older people that,
When birthdays come up, do you count them still? Do you forget them? Do you have big celebrations for each birthday?
I'm turning 75 in November. I'm having two parties, one in Southern California and one up here. Because 75 is a landmark to me. So.
Please invite me. I have a party every year. And sometimes it's in New York, sometimes it's in Sonoma. I just go someplace on my birthday. Mexico last year, actually.
Nice.
Yeah.
I do them every 5 years now. I don't.
Okay.
The annual one doesn't mean that much.
Okay.
It's a party.
We kind of talked about this, but do you think technology is actually good or bad? Hindrance or?
I think a hybrid is really good. I think people kept connected through the pandemic through technology. If we didn't have, the Zoom and FaceTime and things like that, I think people would have been really isolated. And also it helps communicate with a lot of people. I can call or FaceTime somebody across the country or across the world and say hello and see them actually, and it's not a big deal. You can actually do it easily.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's good. I mean, I can see where gets abused by my 13-year-old granddaughter, but no, but it's a good tool to help.
Because my mom
keep
could
things.
attend church at 104 without leaving the house. So she could every Sunday still attend church. So she, that was really good for her.
Well, as a product of Silicon Valley and Apple and Google, it's addictive, which is the downside. However, when used properly, it brings us together, and it can bring us together as long as it's not sitting on the table when you're having a conversation, because it does distract with the notifications. But AI is a little scary, so I'm just trying to stay ahead of the tsunami on that thing.
Okay. And then last one for rapid fire. Do you think about like your health ailments like every day, like the meal you eat, the way you move about your day? Is it like every single kind of step you take you think about that, or is it more when something happens you'll just figure it out?
For me, everything hurts, but I power through it because I feel like if I don't continue moving, I won't. I'll stop moving. So I think that to me, I'm really heavily into Tai Chi and Taiko. And I feel like it's a need to do that. You need to keep moving, otherwise I'll stop moving.
I have
want to.
2 hip replacements, one on each side. And as soon as I get back to the gym, as soon as I get back to running, I did. That to me is really important. But when my friends in my age group, when we first sit down, we do what we say, you have 5 minutes to do your organ recital. And after that, we got to do something else.
I'm aware that I'm moving more slowly. I don't have as much flexibility as I used to have, and so I'm trying to. So I'm aware of that, and trying to move more deliberately. And then also around eating, my wife and I are being very deliberate about how we eat, and being much more careful about the nutrition that we're taking in, and we pay a lot of attention to that.
What's that one vice though? What's that one thing you love to eat?
Well, donuts, but
Yeah, and I'm kind of with Crystal. Everything hurts, but you still
go.
power through it and go, what? That didn't hurt yesterday. Why is it hurting
And it
today?
doesn't hurt while you're doing it.
Yeah.
That's what dancing or whatever, it does not hurt. But once you stop, you feel
Yes.
everything.
Yeah.
Nice. So another topic I wanted to talk about was that I think for me and my culture, I know I'm going to take care of my mom, and I am right now. But I was wondering, for you all who have kids, when you were, I guess, getting up to the retirement or now, are you expecting that your kids will take care of you when you're older, or would it be more of like a hindrance to them to take care of you, and maybe try to figure another way out so they don't have that not like a problem, but another task in their responsibility of their life kind of thing? How do you guys feel about that?
I don't want my son to have to take care of me. I expect to provide for my needs because I don't want to saddle him with that. And I just want to dance at his wedding. I want to be able to dance at his wedding. No time soon. He's only 21.
The other day.
I just want to, like I told him, and then if he's not married when he gets his Academy Award, I'm his date. So, but yeah, no, I want to take care of myself.
I agree with that. And I want my kids in my life. How they're in my life, we haven't defined that yet. My wife and I have talked about that, but we do know that we want them in our lives. But we have set our lives up financially that we hope we don't need them, that we'll be able to take care of ourselves and be able to live in assisted living on our own, and that they'll come visit us, our grandkids will come visit us.
Yeah, I feel the same way, but I had the privilege of spending 76 years with my mom, which was an incredible experience. And again, I said at 100, she was still productive. And at 103, she was still buying Apple stock. Buy Apple, she would say every time I came in. But she taught us to be independent, but also I knew culturally it was our gift also to take care of her, but I want also to have my daughter have the independence as well, and trying to set it up so that we don't have to be reliant on her. But you never know. You can't really plan too much for those things. So.
I have 4 kids who live in various parts of the country, and we joke about the idea of buying an RV and spending 3 months at each kid's house in their driveway until we can't do it anymore. And then they tell me, Dad, that joke is getting really tired. So, but the same with, we don't want to move to where our kids are because we feel like we need to be close to them. They can come see us, and we'd probably much rather spend our time with friends, and have our kids and grandkids in our lives, but not relying on them in that sense.
Okay. And so, I guess I do want to ask this as well, as far as the topic of death and stuff, does that come to your mind a lot? Does it revisit you a lot because maybe friends or other family are passing away now? Is it something that's kind of on your mind kind of often or not often at all?
Well, I go to every funeral of everyone who passes, even if I didn't know them. I mean, because I learn so much from that person's life and legacy. So I love to hear the stories told about the person and see them celebrated. So that's how I process death. I don't think about my own death, but I want to celebrate people for what they have contributed to the world. And so that's how I get good with death.
I think about my own death, but I think about it in a way of celebration because, like I said, my mom lived for so long, and we celebrated her life. And I have several friends who are on the verge of transitioning, but they have taught me that you're living life. Your life, you live until you transition. You're not dying, but you're living. And I'm planning my whole celebration already, I'm going to have drag shows. I'm going to have parties. I'm going to have celebration, taiko drumming. But I think it's celebrating our lives and before we transition.
I have to say that when I contemplated the idea of retiring, one of the calculations was how many years left do I have to do these other things that I haven't been doing that retirement would afford me. But so I realized I was thinking then more about when will I die, but I don't want to spend the rest of my life getting ready to die. I want to do it living, and be engaged in living like I say, learning new things, new experiences, new whatever. I'm not going to go probably jump out of an airplane and or parachuting or something like that. But I want to do new experiences because I want to. Living is what's the thing, and not just getting ready to die.
Yeah, I like that notion. My work in HIV and AIDS, we spend a lot of time talking about living with as opposed to dying from. Mm-hmm. And so I'm living, and I intend to continue to be living. No matter what the quality is, I'm going to live. I'm not dying from life, I'm living.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
I think we also have to acknowledge that we're really privileged here at this table, and that we have the financial resources and the education and the language and the situation where we can do what we want to do. But there's so many elders and seniors that, that don't have that. And that's where we really need to focus a lot of our attention on, for those that can't make the choices that we make because they aren't in our situations.
And even for people whose lives may have been fairly stable, a medical thing hits and it's devastating. We have a friend who probably is going to have to spend the rest of his life in a board and care facility because he's not going to get better. And
if he's lucky to be able to be there,
but it's costing them thousands of dollars a month to do that. So the financial burden is really serious. So our healthcare system could be fixed up a little better.
I agree.
I just want to quickly mention a TV show I landed on last night. It's called The Blue Zone. It's about this man who studied where there's a high concentration of people who live beyond 100 around the world. And so he found 5 places that he's talking about. I only got through 2 episodes, so it was Okinawa and Sardinia in Italy, and then Loma Linda in California, oddly enough. So anyway, he's documenting what are the patterns, what is it they're doing, what are their rituals, what are they eating, how are they relating to people, what are they doing that causes that, and he's coming up with, so I highly recommend watching it. It was pretty inspiring, and I learned a lot about things that I could shift and saw alignment with some of my own, mindset things.
We saw that last night too. I can't remember what platform it's on, but the Blue Zone thing is a fascinating thing. And the Okinawa one was this lady who's 104, I think, and still playing games with her children, but doing music. The music was just an incredibly important part of her life, and continues to play and sing, and it keeps her going. So.
Yep. And the people in Sardinia, it was just walking up steps all the time. I mean, it's built on a hill, right?
Yeah,
so they're just
how
walking
my
up
mom
the steps.
kept
They're not,
walking up and down North Beach, on the hills every day.
That's right.
So Linda was talking earlier about leaving a legacy, and so I was just curious: are there any other milestones that you're trying to achieve, or I feel like, for me, when I say it to someone, tell it to my friend, my mom, my girlfriend, whatever, then someone hears it, and now I have to do it. So are there any milestones you're trying to achieve in the next couple years, 5 years, 10 years?
There's a bunch of countries that I want to go to, and the big thing though is for me to do my memoirs. You mentioned, and I've got to get my memoirs done, because I have friends calling me, you need to write your memoirs. I'm like, what are you talking about? But they're right.
Yeah. The same here. There's a lot of places we want to go see and visit, and we have friends again in various places in the world, and we saw them once, and 20 years ago. We need to go see them again. But the writing thing I found is an important part of this leaving a legacy thing, because I just started writing down my life. And in fact, that's my working title, my life. Okay, but I also realized that in revisiting the experiences in my life, that I needed to get back into some of the history of things that were going on at the time that those, I was in Chicago in 1968. There were things happening in Chicago in 1968. And so revisiting all that and remembering it and getting it written out. But part of it is I want to pass it on, leave a legacy for my grandchildren and great-grandchildren to know that this is the life I lived. I don't know if they'll read it, but I have hopes for that.
For me, I have a bucket list of travel, and I absolutely want to go to Africa. I've not been to Africa, so I want to go to Africa. And I want to go to Accra in Ghana, because I want to go through the door of no return. Because it's important to me from a spiritual kind of way to know that my ancestors went through that door and never returned. And I want to go through the door, which is right next to the door of return, to say, we made it, we survived, I'm here.
I guess mine might be a little simpler. I mean, I want to see the Northern Lights, of course. I want a grandchild, which is going to be really far away from, because I'm already 77 and my daughter's no interest at all. And I said, I don't care about you getting married. I just want the grandkid. Because I was 50 before I had, we adopted our daughter. So I'm an older parent, and all my contemporaries are already have grandchildren or great-grandchildren already. But I think for me, my milestone is every day at the end of the day. If I go to bed happy, content, and made a connection with friends and family, and just know that I've done the best I could, that's my milestone every day.
So Jimmy, you mentioned, wanting to go to Ghana. So one of my great blessings before the pandemic was to go to Accra, Ghana, and I was there for 3 weeks, and I came back in January of 2020, and then 6 weeks later we were in lockdown, and I thank God that I made that trip to Ghana, because I rediscovered so many things about my ancestors, where I came from. I don't know if they're from Ghana or not, but just the feeling of seeing people with agency who look like me, who had the most beautiful, music and clothing, and just a sense of purpose, and they're close to the earth, and then the Americans who moved back there, there's a whole exodus, are living their best lives. I mean, they're beating cancer. I mean, diagnosed with cancer here, they go over there, and a year later, it's gone. And having a baby, and the 70 years old, as a baby. But anyway, yeah, that I wouldn't do. But I'm just saying that the reconnecting, was amazing. So I hope you make that trip soon.
That's great. And I think lastly, for someone, I'm in my 40s, and is there anything you would share to me as advice for my next however many years, what I should do, I don't know, any life advice for me, or even, I'm sure it can apply to people a little bit younger, but even for me?
Be curious. Just keep being curious about new things, and being willing to embrace new ideas. I just find that is really invigorating to just keep learning, and keep running. Oh, yeah.
Try.
Oh, yeah.
I want a lot.
I agree with that. Stay curious, and like Dory says in Finding Nemo, just keep swimming, swimming, swimming.
Thank you.
To me, nothing is impossible. If you think it's possible, just do it. Go for it. And don't be afraid. Just go for it. And wherever you go and whatever you achieve, it's going to be yours.
Continue lifelong learning. And that goes with the curious.
And I think the other thing is don't be afraid to make a major change in your life if that's what's called for. I decided to become a Presbyterian minister at the age of 50, and have had a wonderful 20 plus years doing it, and it was one of the best things I ever did. Not to put aside what I did before that, but I think being willing to do things, embrace new things at whatever age is a good thing.
And then the last thing I would add too is just know who you are and be who you are at all times. I mean, people, from a young age are always trying to figure out who am I, and how do I want to show up. So to the extent that you understand, always be curious about that, and then always be that, right? Be authentic. You want everyone around you to see you be you, because that's where all the juice is anyway. So
Engagement is critical. Engagement in community, family. Wherever your spiritual preferences are, be engaged with those as well, because they will add to the quality of your life, and you'll bring that to the people you meet.
Even with grudges, you think?
You'll get over them.
Okay.
And sometimes you just have to let things go. Whether it's a family member that it just doesn't work anymore, just to let it go and say, okay, that's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, thank you so much for coming today. I feel like learning and hearing your story, just your life story, is so inspiring. And when people say to do something, it has more meaning when I hear people that they've done it themselves and experienced it themselves and what they've done in life. And it's very super inspiring to hear everyone here. So I'm really, really glad to meet you all today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for sharing your
Namaste.
stories.
Thank you.
We have a new community here.
A new tribe.
Yeah.